Drop in everything, madam. There you are.
Thank you. Oh, my roll. Do you like the colour? I wasn't sure at first either. George! George! Oh, George! I'm not going to have a baby after all, isn't it marvellous? I knew if I bought the wool, I'd be all right.
Oh, good. I'm glad, darling. Is that a taxi? I'll take it. I say...
I thought you were flying.
Oh, to the airport, darling. Just the one case.
What's that? You're only staying overnight?
Look, Joy, darling, you know I love you.
Oh, yes, George, and I love you.
Whatever may happen in the future, I want you to remember that and hold tight.
Yes, George. See you tomorrow.
I may not be home tomorrow.
Oh, well, never mind. Men must work and women must weep. Now I'm not pregnant. Can I have that new fur coat? What do you mean, hold tight? George, are you all right? George!
Hold tight.
George? We're flying back from the festival on the Thursday in time for the Hunt Ball. I can't stand that scene, but it's the only chance I've got of wearing the new dress. Well, only 120 guineas and an absolute dream, though I haven't actually got it yet. As soon as George gets back from Ireland, I'm going to take him round to Claydon's and sort of fall in love with it without actually asking the price. Oh, I thought I heard a car. It's black. No, the dress, I mean. Do you think that's unlucky? It is, George. Bye, Caroline. I'll ring you tomorrow. Angus. Darling, I thought it was George. Come in. I mean, I'm glad it's you, but you don't call anymore. Did George ever say anything to stop you? I mean, you used to have your board meetings here. It was nice. And he does get so jealous, especially when I thanked him for those undies and you'd sent them.
Joy, I've got some bad news.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's me blathering on. Not financial.
You've got to be prepared for a terrible shock.
Yes?
There's been an accident.
George is dead.
Well, they haven't found him. His plane crashed over the Irish Sea. No survivors.
He's dead.
Well, they haven't given up the search yet. It's been going on all night. I'm afraid the chances are remote.
There's no chance. He's dead and it's all my fault. I bought a black dress.
Oh, now, you mustn't talk like that. Well, you know how tiny those planes are. But George should have used a scheduled flight. Still, it's no use blaming him.
What am I going to do? He's all I've got in the world.
Oh, you'll be all right soon. You've got your father, you've got the business, the house.
Oh, they don't matter. Nothing matters. I shall die.
You've got me.
Oh, Angus. Oh, darling Angus. Oh, hold me. Don't leave me.
I'm sorry.
Now he'll never know.
A baby? You'll be all right, Joy.
He knew it was going to happen. He had a premonition, Daddy.
I had a premonition. It wasn't about that airplane crash, it was about this company crashing.
No, just
now,
a minute.
don't interrupt. I've had my accountants busy. Global sales bosses is nearly bust.
That's not true, and you don't right to look at the books without my
I've
permission.
every right to protect my financial interests. Now, you've had a sizable investment out of me, and 3 years hard labor out of George, and nothing to show for it. Nothing for his widow, nothing for me. Where has all the money gone, Dalzell?
Daddy, you don't think Angus has been stealing?
I think all sorts of things. That plane crash, for instance. I'm not so sure there isn't something more serious than larceny to charge him with.
Good God, man, you don't think I sabotaged that aeroplane?
That's not a very pretty thing to say, Daddy.
Oh, shut up. You let him fly to Ireland in an old banger with somebody not fit to fly a kite?
That had nothing to do with it. George always preferred to take unscheduled flights. I tried to talk him out of it. It wasn't easy to raise the proper insurance.
Exactly how much did you get out of George's life insurance?
Nothing. I didn't know George was flying that day. He wasn't on company business.
I thought he was going to Ireland to demonstrate the whispering salesman.
What?
Well, it was for special offers through the underfloor heating system.
I didn't want to tell you this, Joy, either of you. I thought I could cover it up, given a bit more time than I should have done. George was running away with every penny we had in the bank. £50,000.
Yeah, get your coat, lass.
This is my coat.
What?
You don't believe me, do you?
How old are you, Dalzell? 30? Huh. You've had more companies than you've had birthdays. George, you know, he was a babe in arms. Now, if you've got anything more to say, you can say it to my friend, Superintendent Proud. He runs the city fraud squad.
But you can't do that. We're going to get married.
Do what?
Why, it's not quite as sudden as all that, sir.
Well, we're in love, of course.
Get married in love? Why, you've just been widowed.
You can't live your life for the dead, Daddy. You said that when you took on the au pair girl after Mummy died.
Well, a child does need two parents, Mr. Orkington. Oh, we've always been fond of each other. Affection turned to, well, love.
Quite suddenly. All at once.
I see. Look, you've had one lot of money out of me through George, and now you're out of the rest. Well, it won't work.
I'm sure it will. Angus loves children. Besides, he's Taurus and I'm Pisces.
No, I haven't had a game for weeks. Yeah, I look forward to it. Say about 12:30? Right. See you in the Cavendish, then, in the bar. Cheers, Sam. Sorry, sir.
During the course of your socializing gamble, have you ever come across a chap named Josh Oakington?
I know him. He belongs to my club. Not the same age group. Don't tell me he's been caught with his hand in the till.
No, nothing as simple as that. Bit unusual, really. What sort of chap is he? Responsible, reliable?
Oh, I should think so. Bit of an old bore, really, with fixed habits. You know, the same chair, same drink, same set of Yorkshire aphorisms, the state of the government, the weather. Yes, I usually manage to avoid him.
Well, he won't now. He'll be looking for you.
No? What's his trouble?
I don't know. Could be old age. Could be delusions. He's been on to homicide. Inspector Martin talked to him. He's got some cock and bull idea about his son-in-law. Says he's been murdered. Blown up over the Irish Sea.
Oh, that plane accident. You remember it ages ago. Months, anyway. It was a four-seater light aircraft, I think. Carraway, yes. George Carraway, married to Oakington's daughter. Very sad. All four killed.
Oakington says that was sabotage. He says that the business partner planted a bomb in Carraway's luggage.
I see, and it just escaped the notice of the authorities. And what does Inspector Martin think?
Well, he thinks the old boy's mad. He's passed him on to you.
Oh, charming.
I know Mrs. Carraway. She's terribly rich, organises fashion shows and runs around in Daddy's Rolls.
I'm not surprised. She probably gets a good cut from the business. Global sales boosters. You know, they make all those gimmicks that nobody wants and everybody buys.
Well, Oakington says the partner's been defrauding.
DL. Yes, a very shrewd Scot. He's sailed near the wind a few times, but so far has managed to keep clear of fraud.
Well, humour the old boy. Get him off our backs if he starts anything.
Hello, Mr. Oakington.
Oh, Liberos, eh? Are they a good thing, Inspector? I see they're going up 2 points.
Everything goes up 2 points after a good lunch.
That's true enough. You're busy at the moment. Get that word, will you?
Well, I can't discuss the market.
Well, it's a little more personal, that. Right up your street, I'd say. Fraud. And murder, most likely.
Let me get you a drink.
No, it's my privilege, Inspector. Smooth and clever, that's Dalzell. She won't hear a word against him.
Well, that's natural enough if they're getting married.
Yes, I know, but I'm very frightened. I begin to think he's some kind of maniac. George died on the plane. What's going to happen to Joy and then to me?
I think you're rather overstating it, Mr. Oakington. But I'll make a few inquiries for you.
Oh, George, he wouldn't have scoundreled with my money. Hey, he rang me up once. 3 o'clock in the morning to confess he cheated at cards. £5 been on his mind all night.
It's possible that DL took advantage of the accident in order to cover up a little deviousness.
A little deviousness? 50,000 quid? Hey, you know what I think? I think he gave George a little present to give one of their clients in Belfast. Time to go off in the middle of the Irish Sea.
I can't believe that. Look, I know Wing Commander Blair. He owned that plane, or rather his company did. He'll know all the facts.
But what have they got to go on? Few bits of metal. And no trace of George. Blown to bits, I should think. Holding the bomb in his lap.
Not a very subtle way of shedding controlling interests.
He's a crook.
He's had a bit of bad luck with his projects in the past, but that doesn't make him a crook.
I don't want him as a son-in-law. Now, when are you going to see Blair? Now, can I take you? The chauffeur's outside.
Well, I'm in court in 20 minutes. Look, whatever we find out about that accident, it won't make any difference. You know that. If they want to get married, they will.
My father would have stopped it with a shotgun.
Oakington, is he a friend of yours?
Yes, we belong to the same club. He's a nice enough fellow, but once he gets an idea into his head...
The club bore, eh?
Well, I quite like him. Anyway, I'd like to set his mind at rest.
Well, he's got hold of the wrong end of the stick, John. There's nothing mysterious about that plane crash. They got some bad weather, developed an engine fault. It was a private charter.
Now, what kind of aircraft?
Four-seater, twin-engine. It has to be for flights over water.
And the Board of Trade made the usual investigation.
Yes, I've got the report here somewhere. Now look at it.
And not much doubt about it, is there?
These boys are pretty thorough.
Yes, I didn't think there was anything in it. His partner says he was scarping with 50,000 quid.
It won't do him much good where he is.
Pity they didn't find the body.
Well,
I expect that's what started Oakington's imagination working.
Well, there you are. It happens. Lucky to recover 3 of them. Force 9 gale, 30-foot waves. 2 ships foundered in that storm.
Yes, I remember.
There was a body washed up near Belfast. They thought it was Caraway, but it wasn't.
Oh? Was there an identification?
Well, not as far as I know. A foreigner, probably. Mrs. Caraway had a look at him. Nasty job. 3 weeks in the sea. Wasn't her husband anyway. Nothing to do with the crash.
Have you got any details?
Well, you can have the report of the Irish police, if you like. They ought to have identified him by now.
Arthur Lancaster. How did they manage to identify him after all that time?
Fingerprints. It's wanted for a dozen things. Been on the run for months. It's wanted for larceny, receiving, 1 or 2 other things. Had 1 or 2 lucky escapes. Car chase in Coventry. Nearly picked up in Snow Hill Station. Then he has the bad luck to jump a ship that sinks in a storm. Well, that's what I call a loser.
He could have been on that plane. He wanted to get out of the country, and George Caraway wanted to disappear. Look, ring Mrs. Caraway, will you? There we are. Find out if they knew each other.
It's a bit of a long shot, isn't it?
Well, it would be if they both hadn't died in the same storm. Lancaster could have been on that plane in Caraway's name.
Do you really think so?
Well, let's find out if George knew Lancaster to start with.
Well, Mrs. Caraway obviously didn't. She went to look at the body.
She's not in.
Well, find out when she will be, will you? You know,
She'll be fine.
I've got a feeling Mrs. Caraway isn't a widow after all.
She's getting married.
Where?
Town Hall Registry Office. Half an hour ago.
And here's to the 2 of you. And lang may the lum reek.
Isn't that rude?
Along may your chimney smoke.
Slants, and the best of health to you, the pair of you. Thank you, thank you. Now, in the notable absence of the bride's father, Mr. Jos Oakington, of Oakington Steel and Brass, no pun intended. You gonna stop this nonsense or not? I would like to say a few words to the happy couple. But first of all, to my son Angus, who since he came south has gone from strength to strength. And now, today, he is completing the greatest merger of his career. Thank you. Now, let him not feel slighted at the withheld blessing of the Oakington chieftain, for I have the assurance of various obscure relatives who have managed to get here today that the wine is not poisoned, nor the food contaminated. Neither during the fiery plundering of the nuptial
I'm sorry to
bed,
interrupt. Oh, who the hell are you? I'm a police officer. Inspector Gunn. May I have a word?
We've just got married. Can't it wait?
I'm afraid it can't.
My ancestor,
It may affect your marriage.
MacDonald.
Do you, or does your late husband, George
I
Caraway,
am on
know a
my
man called
mother's
Arthur Lancaster?
Lancaster. Yes, George knew him. I think they work together.
You can't start making your inquiries in the middle of our wedding, Inspector.
I'm sorry to say this at this time, but I have reason to believe that your first husband is still
That is
alive.
the launching of
George is alive.
great adventure in
Oh, thank God, that's marvelous.
Now, he
Did
is
you hear that?
now,
George is
and
alive.
there's a great responsibility.
Oh, but that's
in
impossible.
keeping
We've
this
just got
great
married.
name
We're just about to
in
cut the cake.
perpetuity.
What do we do?
Cut a bit for George. Where is he? Inspector, how much longer is this going on? There they all are, guzzling at my wedding, and here I am.
I won't keep you too long.
Look, there's really no need to plough through the entire company books. I've told you what happened. My partner vanished with £50,000. That's all there is to it.
While I'm at it, I might as well do a thorough job, Mr. Deal.
I don't know what you expect to find. I'm sure you're wasting your time. I should be with my wife. Well, wife or no, she needs me now.
And so do I. Who did the bookkeeping?
Well, I did. George was no use with figures.
How did he manage to defraud £50,000 then?
Well, he did all the negotiating. I depended on his figures. We've been friends a long time, Inspector. He's not a criminal. He simply took back what belonged to him, his own investment, or rather, his old man's.
Company money belongs to the company. Any other use of it is criminal.
Well, that's George. His heart wasn't in it.
What
Joy
did
and her father pushed him into the business.
What did he do before that?
Oh, isn't that?
And what about this man, Lancaster?
Oh, I never knew him. I knew he was a crook. George was easily led.
Who's Benson? They've had a lot of money.
It's a small factory. They make most of our sales gimmicks. We supply the ideas. Benson makes them work. Eye-catching gimmicks for shop windows, appetizing smells around the soup shelves. Well, sales promotion, I mean, that's our business.
If we don't find George Carraway and that money, you won't have a business. Now, I shall want accounts, orders, contracts, bank statements, and the name of auditors. And where can I find you if I want you in a hurry?
That's my home address. That's George's. It has yet to be decided.
Hello, this is Mrs... Hello, Daddy. Yes, Daddy. No, Daddy. No, I'm sure. Night-night. He wanted to know if you were here.
Well, and you lied to him.
He'd come and take me home.
Well, that's not the point. It's the way you lie. You didn't even blush or stammer.
I know.
You didn't even hesitate.
No, I know. Well, what do you do when you lie, then? Did I do it wrong?
You don't lie. God almighty, girl. You don't lie to your own father as if it was the most natural thing in the world. Have you ever lied to me?
Don't be cross with me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I have a lot in my mind. It's been a terrible day. Oh, the inspector going through the books at the office and the wedding.
Thank you.
I didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry.
Angus, I don't want you to leave.
Yet you won't come to bed.
Do you really think George is really dead? I mean, really?
I really do. I'm sorry, but I do. I think he was on that plane.
So do I.
Let's go to bed, then.
Yes.
Oh, let it ring. What's the matter?
I've got a funny feeling. I've got to answer it. Hello?
Hello, Mrs. Carraway.
It's George. It's my George.
Hello. Is this Mrs.
George?
Carraway?
It's not George. It's the operator. Tell him yes.
George, is that you?
I have a personal call from Mrs. Carraway from Zurich.
Oh, rubbish. Stop mucking about. George, are you alive?
It's the Swiss operator.
No, it's not. It's George with a hanky over the mouthpiece.
Well, I know George's voice.
No, you don't. He used to do it when you phoned and he didn't want to go to the office.
This is Zurich calling.
There, like that. George, it's all right. The police aren't here. It's only me and Angus. I shouldn't have mentioned you. You know how jealous he is. Now he's hung up.
George was always hung up.
Yes, sir.
Ah, Inspector Gamble.
Not so loud with the inspector. You'll lose me all my friends.
Have you heard?
Your son-in-law's telephoned from Switzerland?
That's what they say.
Drink?
Aye, gin.
And a large scotch for me, please.
Now, listen, Inspector. If my daughter comes jabbering any more of her nonsense, ignore her. I'll cut her off. No more money, no more sympathy.
You really think she's a liar?
Dow's will fool her. You know, he's got somebody playing monkey tricks on the phone.
You still think George Carraway is dead?
Ah, of course he's dead, and I know who killed him. That plane crash was a bit of luck for Dalzell. Now we know he wasn't on it. He's trying to kid us George is alive.
Yes, well, I'll look into it.
No, it's not your cup of tea anymore. It's not fraud, it's homicide. I've been trying to see Inspector Martin, but apparently he's in Bermuda.
I'm not surprised. All that sunshine. Thank you. You've been in the metal business a long time, Mr. Oakington. Are you sure you knew what you were doing when you put your money into Global?
What?
Well, it's not exactly legitimate trading. Featherbrain tricks and gimmicks to persuade people to part with their money.
Well, that's very promising returns. George was full of bright ideas.
But hardly gilt-edged. It's the same with all these other trendy rackets today. They either skyrocket or flop. And the only people to make a steady income are the back street boys who knock the trash together to see if it works. That's where you should have invested. Mr. Benson,
Out, sorry.
when will he be back?
About Thursday. Say excuse me, I'm always telling you. Do you want to leave a message?
Oh, sorry, Dad. Have we got any 2BA spring washers?
Oh, Mr. Benson, I thought you were out.
Comfy?
Who are you? National insurance or tax? Police? Oh, it's not that chic copper, is it? I knew there was something funny about the distributors. Deliveries any hour of the night, distance no object. I told him...
You can tell me about that later. I'm investigating global sales boosters. Can I see your accounts, please?
Why, certainly. Miss Andrews, global accounts, please. Take a seat or something. Not that! My goodness, that's an ejector, or she shoots you straight up through the ceiling.
Ah, here we are. Global. Any particular items?
Haven't you got any books?
Well, not exactly. Well, it's not really worth it. We only make one of this and one of that. Prototypes. I don't want to get too big, you see.
According to global accounts, you've been paid a total of £7,500.
What? 7,500 pence?
No, they're right. Or almost. It was before your time. We did a production run on some of their sales devices.
Oh? Whereabouts? On a broken-down lathe and a guillotine?
Oh, Derek went on full overtime. Shift work at weekends. The two of us.
Who placed the order?
Mr. Carraway. The one who was killed.
And who paid you off?
What? Oh, the Scotch gentleman, Mr. D.L.
£7,500. Can I see your bank statements, please?
Don't you need a warrant for that, Inspector?
That's typical. You've got no books, yet you expect everybody else to play it by the book. All right? I will. If I leave here to get a warrant, when I come back, I shall go through your business with a fine-tooth comb.
No, you don't have to do that. I'll help you all I can. You do people favors.
You do who
what
favors?
Happened? Angus D.L. He said Mr. Carraway had left things in a mess. He wanted me to up the total.
Up the total?
He said he'd wanted to lose about 7,000 to make his books right. Oh, we're not the only ones. He made a little cash adjustment in return for the favor.
He bribed you to say that George Carraway had spent £7,000 on production. How much was the bribe?
Oh, I forget.
I'll soon tell you. Bolton, Briggs, Biscuits, Benson. £200 cash.
Very good. You realize that you'll have to pay 5 times that amount in tax on 7,000. You've been done.
Ah, Scotch bastard.
What's this? The auditor's signature?
That's right.
Then he has the nerve to ring me up.
Who does?
D.L. Well, there was that bit in the paper about George not being on that plane. Hey, did you hear about that? Of course you did. That's why you're here.
And what did he want?
We wanted to know if I've seen George Carraway. You see, I was in the Home Guard with George's father. I've known the family for years. Well, that's how I got the business. He should have been a farmer like his dad. What, 200 Frisians, the best bit of grazing in the county? Hey, my dad used to shoe his dad's horses. That's why he phoned me, I expect. Ah, it's not like it was. You pay the money, you can be squire of the village. Have a cigarette.
No, thanks.
But I told him, I said, if young George has tucked himself away, it won't be in these parts. Well, it ain't likely.
No, I think you're right.
You ask me, George only married to get the money for a farm of his own. But she made him go into a business he didn't like, didn't want, didn't know nothing about.
Well, she brought it on her own back then. Did he do any fishing?
George Carraway? He's mad on fishing. When he came here with the drawings for that sales rubbish, he'd talk of nothing else. Well, you know what anglers are once they get going, Inspector.
I know what they are when they can't.
He had an idea for an electronic float, you know. You'll never find a fish that'll understand it, I used to tell him. 200 quid.
You can't sit here all night and day, lass.
He's bound to ring again.
I doubt it was him. You know, people don't come back from the dead.
He's not. He's coming back from Zurich. Oh, Daddy, don't keep on. I thought you'd cut me off. I was beginning to feel free.
Free to make a damn fool of yourself. Delta was here all night, weren't he?
And why not? We were married yesterday. For half an hour.
It's a girl.
No, it's not. It's that woman police sergeant. She rang up with a string of intimate personal questions about my married life with George.
Well, she's only doing her job.
Yes, well, you better let her in before she uses her skeleton keys.
Oh, Mr. Oakington, is Mrs. Caraway? Sorry to intrude, Mrs. Caraway.
Any time.
You remember we asked you for a picture of your husband? Have you got one we could circulate?
Circulate? I hope it won't be posted outside police stations with wanted on it.
You're wasting your time. You ought to be questioning Angus Dalzell. How did he murder George Caraway and where's he hidden the body?
Oh, Daddy!
Well, you've got to face up to things. Now, you've had your morning, 200 quid's worth of black, and George can only die once.
He's always like that. Blunt. A photograph. Yes, umpteen. Look in here. I've just been pasting in this morning's headlines. Well, it's all the same sort of stuff. My coming out, finishing school, going up, sent down. Oh, that's me underneath that policeman. And then rusticated. Well, I thought cannabis resin was for putting on violin strings.
Is this your husband, George Caraway?
With a beard. Yes, I made him shave it off.
Your country cottage?
George kept on about buying one. I made him give up the idea.
This?
Oh, that's my ideal man. And they asked 4 of us. It was printed in the Varsity Mag. Just a giggle, really.
6 foot tall, 42 chest, size 9 feet.
Grey eyes, short dark hair. Usually smokes a pipe.
Caraway case?
Yes, sir. Interpol.
Yes, he's got 3 languages, not including bad. What? Oh, skip it. Yes, he's fond of country pursuits. Yeah, shooting, fishing, and walking. Yeah. What? Oh, no. No. No woman, that's for sure. Oh, he's probably got a beard. Oh, there's a picture on the wire now. Right. Ciao.
I thought they couldn't trace that call from Switzerland.
Well, they may have slipped up.
You really think he's gone abroad?
No, sir. But we can't afford to ignore any of the possibilities. We're dealing with a bunch of nutcases. You like Angus DL. I want you to follow him.
I didn't say I liked him. He just seemed honest.
Well, he's been buzzing around the countryside all day. Find out what he's up to. Sergeant Ken will tell you where to pick him up.
If DL knows where Caraway is...
He might get there before we do.
Bye.
Bye. Got any ideas?
Yes. Have you ever read Coming Up for Air?
George Orwell?
Yeah. The chap who revisited the scenes of his boyhood when things got too much for him.
Yes. A little bit of fishing, a little bit of walking. Oh, it's a natural feeling.
I think he might have gone to Earth somewhere. Started the life he always wanted. The simple life. And having met her, I can't say I blame him.
The wife?
Yeah, she's the one that worries me.
Clever?
To act so dumb, she must be brilliant.
Well, even if you can't find Caraway, you've got enough on DL to arrest him, haven't you?
I'd rather wait, sir. He might lead Hicks to where Caraway's hiding out.
All right, we'll give Hicks a chance. But if she doesn't have any luck, I want you to pull DL in.
Scotch with ice, please.
Hello.
Oh, hello.
You're a long way from home, aren't you?
Well, not really. This used to be one of our country weekend places when we were first married.
Your first marriage or your second?
My first. Thank you. Something of a sentimental gem. Will you join me? Or are you with somebody? George!
That's Angus.
The one with the beard. George!
Let's get this last double.
George Carraway. I'm a police officer, and I'd like
That's
you to...
not George Carraway, that's George Pendleton. Let her have a bit of fun. Hold on to me, girlie. I'm much better when I'm held. Glad you brought a friend. Be tanking him up, Angus. We'll take him back to my place.
I thought my George might be here. Did you?
I split. One double, one wanted. Hey, come back. I need you. Like a hole in the head. She's a police sergeant. Try to kiss her and she'll slap a breathalyzer on you. Come and help me start the coffee. See you at my place.
Don't be long. You are on duty, aren't you?
They're always on duty.
So, when are you expecting him? George Carraway, I mean. He is meeting you here, isn't he?
Hey, you're on the wrong beat, copper. We're simply having a quiet social lunch. Or we were. Don't you ever relax?
In George's old local. You don't come here. You didn't even know where the chalk was for the dartboard.
All right, George used to come here. So what?
No doubt went to a lot of places. Why this pub and why today? And why were they here if not to meet him?
I'll tell you everything I know. Pendleton reckons somebody saw George in here.
When?
Last night. Pendleton rang me this morning. I rang Joy. We came for the same reason you came. We're all looking for George, if he's still alive. And I'm not convinced.
Oh, I'm not convinced either, Mr. DL. With your story. Can you produce whoever it was who saw him?
No, I don't know. Pendleton doesn't, nor does Joy. The word simply got around. Now you know as much as I do. Have the other half.
No, thank you. I think the inspector may want the other half, though, of the story.
Here he comes. No wonder George hasn't come home. A lot of good leaving a light in the window every night. He'd be arrested on sight.
If he's alive and I've yet to be convinced and I get a reasonable explanation, I'll withdraw my charges.
It's too late. That rotten Lone Ranger won't stop now. They're like robots. You wind them up and they keep going till everybody's in prison.
Now, whatever you've done, you better make a clean breast of it.
Thanks for coming.
Well, have you found him then?
Not yet. And I don't know why you brought us here. George isn't here, and neither is the 50,000.
No. Well, we're not only talking about the £50,000, Mr. DL. I've been talking to a friend of yours, Mr. Benson. George Carraway's been taking money for some time, hasn't he? And not for himself, either.
Has he?
Ever since George brought your money into the firm, Mr. Oakington, he's been taking it back again. Well, he's had more than 50,000. He's been milking the company for years.
And you've been trying to cover up for him?
Yes. Only for your sake.
Darling Angus.
And I make no bones about it. I'd have covered up the 50,000 too if it had the time.
Oh, Angus.
Oh, very touching. And what's he supposed to have done with all that money?
I think your daughter might be able to answer that, Mr. Oakington. Tell me, Mrs. Carraway, how much was your housekeeping allowance?
Oh, not much. A little. We ate out mostly, which saves buying a lot of food and fuel and so on.
How much a week? £10, £15?
£20. But that was just to see us over the weekend. The banks close on Sunday.
Over the weekend. What would you say you spent a month?
Oh, I really no idea, Sergeant. £200? 300?
Yes, it must be very difficult to be accurate.
It is rather. But I'd say £200 on incidentals. Well, you know, clothes, the horses, cars, and so on. Oh, and then, of course, there were the holidays. The same little place year after year. Nassau.
You're looking for £50,000, man. This is peanuts.
The sort of peanuts that gave me ulcers, drove George heading up to God knows where, and ruined the business.
Yes, I'm coming to that. And what about presents?
Presents?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you mean birthdays and things?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've no idea. They're all listed in his diary, over there.
May I?
Help yourself. I've read it. It's not very interesting.
Birthday? Christmas Day? Mother's Day? St. George's Day?
I'm patriotic.
Do you know that under the Bankruptcy Act, all presents given within the preceding 3 years of the receiving order are returnable and become the property of the creditors?
Oh, but that's silly. They were only little things. Brooches and so on.
How much was this, for instance?
I don't know. It was second-hand.
It looks like a Tukoski to me. I'd say £10,000.
Daddy bought it.
Oh, don't pudge yourself, lass. George bought it without saying how valuable it was.
Oh, yes. I remember now.
Yes. £500? 2,000. $1,600. $2,500.
Poor old George.
Well, they were his as well.
And mine. And yours and the company's. You've had your investment back twice over. I don't know why you put the fraud squad onto me. That's where most of the money's gone.
And then there's the little matter of the £50,000. Who's got that, Mr. DL? You, or Caraway, or both of you?
Listen.
You take it in the hall, I'll take it here.
Here! I don't hold with that.
Then keep quiet.
Hello?
Mrs. Caraway,
Hello, yes. George? It's all right. There's nobody here.
I have a personal call for you.
Oh, George, stop mucking about. Speak English.
I have a personal call for Mrs. Caraway from Hamburg, Germany.
Hamburg? But you're supposed to be in Zurich.
Is Mrs. Caraway available, please, to take a personal call from Hamburg?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. You know it's me.
Very well, I'm connecting your caller.
George? Is it George, Inspector?
Probably, but you've warned him off.
He's cut off again. He's in Hamburg now.
That's a bloody crow trick. What have you got doing it, Dalzell? Now, do you realize that if George is dead, that marriage is valid, and all this stuff belongs to him?
I'm going.
I'm afraid you can't.
I've had enough for one day.
I'm afraid you can't. I'm arresting you.
What for? I haven't got the money.
For falsifying your accounts, bribing your manufacturers to make false statements, and I think you went to Bingham Green yesterday to meet George Caraway. I won't oppose bail, but you'll need £5,000.
I'll bring my purse.
Oh, well, not a bad morning. Time to go, Bracken. Hello, Brack. Short time for dogs. That's good. Short time for chaps. Hey. Short time for fishes. Oh, it's no use, Bracken. We shall have to have a mother. I'm sure you'll like her. She's much better with dogs. That's right. You eat up, make your hair curl. Who's that porridge?
Now it's 9:30 and it's news time. DL case. Angus
Oh,
DL,
we're
whose
a
marriage
case
to
now.
Mrs. George Caraway was dramatically interrupted by the police, has now been arrested on a charge of conspiracy to defraud. There are other charges pending.
Oh, dear.
What are we going to do, Breck? We can't take our happiness at the expense of others. I expect your mother told you that.
I said the telephone is ringing, Mrs. Caraway.
Did you say something, Mrs. M?
The telephone is ringing, Mrs. Caraway.
And I've been waiting here day and night for a week.
Oh, perhaps they'll ring again.
Are you waiting for something?
George Caraway, sir.
I've got DL's arrest as a news item on the radio, sir.
Well, you know the regulations. Bringing publicity upon an accused person. It could bring civil action for damages.
He's in too much trouble to think of suing us. Anyway, it seemed the only way to reach Carraway. George has got a nasty little streak of conscience. He'll never make a criminal. For instance, why did he telephone his wife?
Well, it wasn't to save her from bigamy. The time he telephoned, she'd already gone through the ceremony.
Perhaps he loves her.
No, that's a weakness, too. When Carraway hears that DL's in trouble, I think he'll try and help.
I see. He'll call his wife, and then she'll ring you and tell you where he is.
Well, I have got the line tapped, sir.
It's a bit strong, isn't it?
Hello? Yeah? What time was this? Well, she should have answered. She was there. Yeah, okay. Well, there was a call, but she didn't answer.
She's probably gone to join Carraway. You got somebody watching her?
No, sir.
Why not?
Because I don't think she knows where he is.
Don't you be too sure of that. You get on round there and find out what she's up to. Now, let's get this case wrapped up, shall we?
Good morning.
Wait just a moment, please.
Where? Paris? George, is that you?
I have a personal call from Paris for Mrs. Carraway. Is this the residence of Mrs. Carraway?
Oh, George, stop playing. Talk to me.
Hold a moment, I have your call. Joy, darling, is that you? Are you alone?
Oh, George, I knew it was you all the time. What are you doing in Paris? Shh. It's all right. You can talk. I'm alone.
Listen, Joy, I want to see you and Angus as quickly as possible.
Won't be a minute.
Keep your head away. I'll be there in 3/4 of an hour.
From Paris?
It's the police.
That was just a
George.
gag. Listen, Joy, you remember that
George.
lovely old mill cottage?
George, just
Well,
a minute. Aren't you thoroughly ashamed of yourself?
Yes, Joy, darling, of course I am. I want to explain it all. I want to make full restitution to you, to Angus, to the company.
Good. Listen to me, Carraway.
George, hang up. It's the police.
No, stay on the line.
Hang up.
Oh, be sensible, lad.
Might have known. Nothing's changed. Oh, well, Bracken. It was nice while it lasted.
Well, perhaps you'd like to tell us where this cottage is, Mrs. Carraway.
I don't know where it is. George had so many dream cottages, didn't he, Angus?
You'd better tell them if you know. All the documentary evidence is against me. If they don't get George, I'm stuck.
Well, if they arrest both of you, I'm stuck. They're even going to ransack my home. My baby's home.
Hicks, I'm no expert, but what would you say this is?
I don't know. It's got 3 legs, 1 arm, 2 neck holes, and the bottom's knitted up.
What exactly are you expecting, Mrs. Carraway? Sympathy?
It was all those interruptions. It's a polishing rag. Well, I thought I was expecting.
If you'll just stop acting long enough for me to give you a warning, that money your husband's got belongs to the Crown until judgment is given.
Well, I don't want it.
If you touch it or cause it to be taken, the consequences will be serious. Now, I'm going to give you 2 hours to bring that money and George Carraway here to me.
Are you going to wait here? Thank you.
Shouldn't you have her followed? I don't trust that woman.
I do. I'm relying on her.
Yoo-hoo!
Hey, you! Now, try to be nice. I dare say I exaggerated a good deal. Miss me?
Oh, yes. Mind you, I have been quite busy.
Yes, I know. I read about it.
I thought you were dead.
I know. I did.
You shouldn't have left me. I know marriage is a bore, but it's just the same for women. Couples should run away together.
Well, I was going to get you to join me here. That was my original idea. But then when the plane crashed, I decided to stay dead. It is peaceful.
You should have let me know.
I tried. I said hold tight, so you held tight to Angus.
Well, I'd have thought you wanted me to be happy.
That's what they all say. George is dead, long live George. When I die, I don't want anyone to be happy. I want the whole world to stop.
You got pretty close to it here.
Where's Angus?
I gave him the slip. He wants you to give the money back.
I know, I'm going to.
No, you're not, George. You'll go to prison just the same. We're going to clear off while we can. Get right away. Now shave off that silly beard and get rid of some of that fat.
You don't want me, you just want my money.
It's taken you a long time to find out.
Angus, where did you get to? We're all going away together.
You make a cup of tea. And what a shocking way to treat anybody, George. She went to pieces.
Well, I'm back now. Might have been worse. If I hadn't absconded, I'd have been dead now instead of Arthur Lancaster.
What are you talking about?
Arthur, he was on the run. The police were watching all the ports. He wanted a false identity, so I gave him mine. Well, it suited me. I wanted him to think I was in Ireland. So I gave him my air ticket. Poor old Arthur.
How much have you got left?
32,000. It's here.
There we are. All in tennis. Phew. Good. Well, by the time we're both realising our assets, we shan't be too far short.
How bad is it, Angus? Could we save the firm?
It's not the firm that's in trouble.
Oh, do shut up a minute, darling. Is it too late for restitution?
Well, there are one or two things we could do. It would mean cutting right down on everything, scraping every cent we've got, well, selling everything that's not absolutely essential.
It would be worth it, Angus. I don't mind what I sell. I'll make any sacrifice. Joy's car, Joy's paintings, the house, all those clothes.
We'll have to cut staff.
Oh, why not? We don't need Miss Robinson. She was only there for show anyway. Joy could do her job.
That's a great idea. That means whatever capital we do raise, we can put back into the company. I'll make out a new set of overheads so we can present a workable scheme to Inspector Gamble. He's a reasonable man, and after all, what they want, a sound, solvent company, it's in their own interest to give us a bit of leeway.
We'll strip to the waist, buckle down, and build up the company again from scratch.
Well, to start with, make out a list of all your assets. Well, Joy can do that. She can put the whole contents of the house up for auction and maybe move into a cheap hotel somewhere.
Do you mind? Would you please stop ignoring me?
Now, we've got to talk business, Joy.
After all, we're doing it for you, darling.
For me, I don't want to strip to the waist.
Look, why don't you go home?
This is my home, isn't it, George?
Now, wait a minute. How much would we get for this place?
It's the only way, Joy. Then we haven't swindled anyone.
Oh, yes, you have. You've swindled me, both of you. But for me, there wouldn't be any global sales boosters. And if you hadn't married me, you'd never have had Daddy's money to back you. And if I hadn't smashed into your car that day, you two would never have met.
Sure, that was sheer bad driving, an accident.
You can't rely on accidents if you're going to get on. Now, my friend Caroline has a villa for sale on the Côte d'Azur. Why don't we fly there today?
What, both of us?
Well, I'm married to both of you.
How much does she want for it?
Yeah, wait a minute. Come away from that Lorelei before she puts us back on the rocks again. Let's talk in the garden.
Good idea.
So, it is a Tukoski.
Oh, hello, Inspector. Did George and Angus tell you where to find me?
They didn't have to. I knew where to find you.
They're all ready for you.
If you've got air tickets, I'll want a refund. Hicks?